Is the key clinical exam finding that doctors need to pair with information about whether the child has ear pain, whether they have a fever or something like that, to say whether they should likely give that kid antibiotics to help them get better. That's the idea.
This is actually to 2 o'clock.
Well, we basically have no competition in this exact space. There are otoscopes that parents can buy, digital otoscopes for looking in your kid's ear, but there are existing studies that basically show that those digital otoscopes are very difficult for untrained parents to get a clinically useful picture of the eardrum that they would then send to a doctor. The other sort of hitch there is that it's actually very hard to tell just looking at an eardrum whether a kid has fluid behind the eardrum, because it's not see-through really. When your kid is yelling and having a bad time, all of the capillaries in there actually get pretty inflamed and filled with blood, the look of it is basically an inflamed, angry-looking eardrum that you could convince yourself is infected when it's really just that your kid is upset about something, has a stomach ache, who knows what it is that's actually causing them to complain. And so our app gives doctors a way of, without having to see the child in person, figuring out whether there's that middle ear fluid, which is what they really need to know to make an accurate diagnosis about whether they need to give the kid some sort of medical treatment, or whether it's the sort of thing that you should just wait and see how it develops. Because a lot of times you can just sit with it and the kid is going to get better soon, and there's no need for intervention. So,
friend up who happens to run a VR education company that does after-school programs in 4 different states, and I said, okay, people from Washington Department of Education and YMCA Boys and Girls Club. Do you know anyone who'd be interested? And he said, Joey, I want 40. And at that point, I was still in the design phase, so I didn't even have one yet, and so I was panicking a little, and so I tell him this, and he says, I don't care, just get started. So that was enough to start a business, and it's 2 months later, and we're about to launch a Kickstarter campaign August 14th. So we're here to promote.
Can you re-explain very briefly what it does exactly?
So this is our, so we're Takamura Robot, and this is the Hero Kit. So HIRO, which stands for highly interactive robotic organism. So it's a kit based off of the Raspberry Pi Pico microcontroller, which is actually a cheap microcontroller. You can get them for $79. It's actually Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled. So we're building easy to assemble robotics kits to teach students electronics and programming, and for makers and hobbyists a platform for prototyping using robotics. And so it's a microcontroller connected to eight servo motors, which allows it to kind of crawl around. And because it's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled, we're eventually going to create some code for it that will allow people to remote control the robot.
What makes you different from your competition?
So I actually built this because so when I was in middle school, the kit that was around in my day was Lego Mindstorms. They were fun, and they taught you, problem solving and teamwork, but there were 2 problems. 1, they were expensive, and 2, I didn't actually walk away from the class with any technical skills because they made programming too easy and electronics too easy. And I spent freshman year of high school just reading book after book after books to finally be able to build my first robot. So I want to take that process and just make it easier, so I designed the Hero Kit.
We make a security and router company. So this is our authentic anchor right here. What this does is it'll combine 2 internet connections to make a more faster, more resilient internet connection for our customers. So right here, we've got 2 modems, each with their own separate internet connection. They're going into our router here. They're being combined, and out comes a way faster, more resilient connection.
And what makes you different from your competition?
Yeah, one of the things that we're really focusing on is what kind of use cases. So any place where you have critical infrastructure, think ships, hospitals, military bases, any kind of place where permanently losing internet connection or even 10 minutes, 5 minutes is a serious concern. This is perfect.
And I'm working on is a little blueprint. It is AI-backed parenting app. So what we are doing is based on the centers of child development psychologist theories, and then use AI to develop to deliver the advice that parents can use directly in their situation, and help them to connect with their kids much better, because it helps them to understand their kids too.